Okay, how's it going, everybody? Sorry about that. Okay, yeah, we're going to read some Lenin today. Um, we started reading Left Wing Childishness, released in 1918 by V.I. Lenin. Now we read the first part. Now we're going to read the second part. It's not very long. It's one of the shorter parts, but this is part two of Left Wing Childishness, written by V.I. Lenin in 1918. So let's go ahead and get into this. Perhaps all these phrases of the left's about war can be put down to mere childish exuberance, which moreover concerns the past, and therefore has not a shadow of political significance. This is the argument some people put up in defense of our lefts. But this is wrong. Anyone aspiring to political leadership must be able to think out political problems. And lack of this ability converts the lefts into spineless preachers of a policy of vacillation, which objectively can have only one result, namely, by their vacillation, the lefts are helping the imperialists to provoke the Russian Soviet Republic into a battle that will obviously be to its disadvantage. They are helping the imperialists to draw us into a snare. Listen to this. Quote, the Russian workers' revolution cannot save itself by abandoning the path of world revolution, by continually avoiding battle, and yielding to the pressure of international capital, by making concessions to home capital. From this point of view, it is necessary to adopt a determined class international policy which will unite international revolutionary propaganda by word and deed and to strengthen the organic connection with the international socialism and not with the international bourgeoisie. End quote. I shall deal separately with the thrust at home policy contained in this passage, but examine this riot of phrase-making and timidity in deeds in the sphere of foreign policy. What tactics are binding at the present time on all who do not wish to be tools of imperialist provocation, and who do not wish to walk into the snare? Every politician must give a clear, straightforward reply to this question. Our party's reply is well known. At the present moment, we must retreat and avoid battle. Our lefts dare not contradict this and shoot into the air. Quote, a determined class international policy, end quote. This is deceiving the people. If you want to fight now, say so openly. If you don't wish to retreat now, say so openly. Otherwise, in your objective role, you are a tool of imperialist provocation, and your subjective mentality is that of a frenzied petty bourgeois who swaggers and blusters, but senses perfectly well that the proletariat is right in retreating and in trying to retreat in an organized way. He senses that the proletariat is right in arguing that because we lack strength, we must retreat from Western and Eastern imperialism, even as far as the Urals. For in this lies the only chance of playing for time while the revolution in the West matures. The revolution which is not bound, despite the twaddle of the lefts, to begin in, quote, spring or summer, end quote, but which is coming nearer and becoming more probable every month. The, quote, lefts have no policy of their own. They dare not declare that retreat at the present moment is unnecessary. They twist and turn, play with words, substitute the question of continuously avoiding battle for the question of avoiding battle at the present moment. They blow soap bubbles such as, quote, international revolutionary propaganda by deed, end quote. What does this mean? It can only mean one of two things. Either it is mere Nozdrovism, or it means an offensive war to overthrow international imperialism. Such nonsense cannot be uttered openly. And that is why the left communists are obliged to take refuge from the derision of every political conscious proletarian behind high-sounding and empty phrases. They hope the inattentive reader will not notice the real meaning of the phrase international revolutionary propaganda by deed, end quote. The flaunting of high-sounding phrases is characteristic of the declassed petty bourgeois intellectuals. The organized proletarian communists will certainly punish this habit with nothing less than the derision and expulsion from all responsible posts. The people must be told the bitter truth, simply, clearly, and in a straightforward manner. It is possible, and even probable, that the war party will again get the upper hand in Germany. That is, an offensive against us will commence at once. And that Germany, together with Japan, by official agreement or by tacit understanding, will partition and strangle us. Our tactics, if we do not want to listen to the ranters, must be to wait, procrastinate, avoid battle, and retreat. If we shake off the ranters and brace ourselves, quote, embrace ourselves, end quote, by creating genuinely iron, genuinely proletariat, genuinely communist discipline, we shall have a good chance of gaining many months. And then by retreating even, if the worst comes to the worst, to the Urals, we shall make it easier for our ally, the international proletariat, to come to our aid, to catch up, to use the language of sport, the distance between the beginning of revolutionary outbreaks and revolution. These, and these alone, are the tactics which can in fact strengthen the connection between one temporarily isolated section of international socialism and the other sections. But to tell the truth, all that your arguments lead to, dear left communists, is the, quote, strengthening of the organic connection, end quote, between one high-sounding phrase and another. A bad sort of organic connection, this. Organic connections in quotes, or in quotes. I shall enlighten you, my amiable friends. I'm going to pause. Can you tell that when I was younger, I had trouble saying the word, I had trouble making H's and like A's and then starting off with vowels, like amiable. I used to stutter during those times. And you might notice when I read stuff, like if I try to say amiable, or if I tried to say like honor, I'd say honor, you know. I'd say it like that. I had an uncle that'd go, he's hung up, you know. And that's how I'd start stuttering. I'd stutter when I was a kid when I'd say like a word like amiable, which I don't know if I'm saying it right, but like amiable, like, or if it was even an H, like ha ha ha. I used to stutter when I was a kid. So you might, sometimes I still get caught up when I'm reading words that are particularly hard to read, but start off like that because I'm not sure what the next syllable is, you know what I mean? So it's harder just to flow into it. Okay, sorry, back to Lenin. I shall enlighten you, my amiable friends, as to why such disaster overtook you. It is because you devote more effort to learning by heart and committing to memory revolutionary slogans than to thinking them out. This leads you to write, quote, the defense of the socialist fatherland, end quote, in quotation marks, which are probably meant to signify your attempts at being ironical, but which really prove that you are muddleheads. You are accustomed to regard defensism as something base and despicable. You have learned this and committed it to memory. You have learned this by heart so thoroughly that some of you have begun talking nonsense to the effect that the defense of the fatherland. Lenin hated this slogan, defense of the fatherland. he hated that slogan. I mean, it really did allow World War I to happen, but he hated that slogan. And it's just funny because he says the socialist fatherland, and he's like, that's like, he probably hates that worse than he hates the defense of the fatherland. The idea of a socialist fatherland. Okay. In defense of the socialist fatherland. You have learned this by heart so thoroughly that some of you have begun talking nonsense to the effect that defense of the fatherland is in an imperialist epoch is impermissible. As a matter of fact, it is impermissible only in an imperialist reactionary war waged by the bourgeoisie. But you have not thought out why and when defensism is abominable. To recognize defense of the fatherland means recognizing the legitimacy and justice of war. Legitimacy and justice from what point of view? Only from the point of view of the socialist proletariat and its struggle for its emancipation. We do not recognize any other point of view. If war is waged by the exploiting class with the object of strengthening its rule as a class, such a war is a criminal war, and defensism in such a war is a base betrayal of socialism. If war is waged by the proletariat after it has conquered the bourgeoisie in its own country, and is waged with the object of strengthening and developing socialism, such a war is legitimate and, quote, holy. We have been defenseless since October 20th, 1917. I have said this more than once very definitely. If you dare not deny this, it is precise. If you dare not, and you dare not deny this, it is precisely the interest of, quote, strengthening the connection, end quote, with international socialism that we are in duty. It's always, Lenin cracks me up. Okay. That we are in duty bound to defend our socialist fatherland. Those who treat frivolously the defense of the country in which the proletariat has already achieved victory are the ones who destroy the connection with international socialism. When we were the representatives of an oppressed class, we did not adopt a frivolous attitude towards the defense of the fatherland in an imperialist war. We opposed such defense on principle. Now that we have become representatives of the ruling class, which has begun to organize socialism, we demand that everybody adopt a serious attitude towards defense of the country, and adopting a serious attitude towards defense of the country means thoroughly preparing for it and strictly calculating the balance of forces. If our forces are obviously small, the best means of defense is retreat into the interior of the country. Anyone who regards this an artificial formula made up to suit the needs of the moment should read old Clausewitz, one of the greatest authorities on military matters, concerning the lessons of history to be learned in this connection. The, quote, left communists, end quote, however, do not give the slightest indication that they understand the significance of the question of the balance of forces. When we were opposed to defensism on principle, we were justified in holding up to ridicule those who wanted to, quote, save their fatherland, ostensibly in the interest of socialism. When we gained the right to be proletarian defenses, the whole question was radically altered. It has become our duty to calculate with the utmost accuracy the different forces involved, to weigh with the utmost care the chances of our ally, the international proletariat, being able to come to our aid in time. It is in the interest of capital to destroy its enemy, the revolutionary proletariat, bit by bit. But the workers in all countries have united, actually united, i.e. by beginning the revolution. It is in our interest to do all that is possible, to take advantage of the slightest opportunity to postpone the decisive battle until the moment, or until after the moment. The revolutionary workers' contingents have united in a single great international army. Okay. It just made me laugh because I'm like, oh no, I read that. I'm like, he probably threw the paper down when he read that. This leads you to write. This leads you to write. The defense of the socialist fatherland, in quotation marks, which are probably meant to signify your attempts. Well, I shall enlighten you, my amiable friends. I was just seeing this and I thought, like he's speaking nicely to them, like at the beginning, as to why such disaster overtook you. It is because you devote more effort to learning by heart and committing to memory revolutionary slogans than thinking them out. He says, this leads you to write, quote, the defense of the socialist fatherland, in quotation marks, which are probably meant to signify your attempts at being ironical, but which really prove that you are muddleheads. Okay, that made me laugh. Because I remember at first reading, like, I shall enlighten you, my amiable friends. And I thought, like, I felt this tone like he was speaking nicely to them, you know? Well, that's why such disaster overtook you. It is because you devote more effort to learning by heart and committing to memory revolutionary slogans than to thinking them out. This leads you to write defense of the socialist fatherland. That is what I would write if I wanted to piss Lenin off. That would be if the only way I'd ever write that, like, if I wanted to piss Lenin off, that's what I would do. I would write that slogan in a pamphlet and then distribute it around. I would probably die. Okay. Like, Lenin probably wanted to choke them, as, like, you know, like that's the worst thing Lenin could ever read. Okay, so thank y'all for tuning in. This is Marxist Soft, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Tumblr, all of those. This is section 2 of V.I. Lenin, left-wing childishness. Left-wing childishness, yeah, 1918. So, yeah, thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all hit me up. Y'all have a great day. And